Good evening. It is time for today's tax talk. I'm your host. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. I like my little sign here. Budget cuts ahead. It's just ahead. They're always just ahead, but we never really get there, do we? And so today is Wednesday, December 21st, the year of our Lord 2022. And I wanted to point out that the budget cuts are just ahead. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Won't you join us? It does seem like every time we get, we being, maybe conservatives, and I don't like to call myself a Republican because I'm really not, although I vote Republican and I am a Republican precinct committeeman. That's true. But I'm more of a conservative, especially what's going on here with this, with the budget. And, every time that the Republicans have a chance to change things, they decline. And they jump on board with everything that's going on. And, with the omnibus bill that's coming through, that's $1.9 trillion. They told us that during COVID, we had to spend a lot more money, so it was just temporary though, because, as soon as COVID went away, but that's the baseline now. And we're going up 10% from last year. And this bill, again, they just introduced it last night. It's more than 4,000 pages long. Nobody's read it, and they want to vote by Christmas Day. It just doesn't make any sense, does it? Nobody knows what's in it. There is a senator, I think, has a lot of staff trying to pour through it and bring out what's in it, because nobody knows what's in it. And of course, everybody knows what a little bit, whatever they wanted, that's in there. When you got $2 trillion, you could put a lot of stuff in there, and they do. A lot of it's in there. So anyway, that's what the story is today. And so let's go to this story. Because it's really about today that the Republicans are touting that they cut the IRS budget. So that's what we're going to talk about. Now remember the Inflation Act, the Inflation Reduction Act. Always have to laugh at that because it doesn't reduce inflation; it actually increases inflation. But that's what's in a name. That they raised $80 billion for the IRS, and then the GOP comes in with this. They call it a 2% cut, but it's not even 2% of what the money is. It's only 2% of the money that they gave outside of the $80 billion. So let's go to the story. The Republicans hailed 2% cut to IRS appropriation in omnibus. So this is unbelievable. Senate Republicans are pointing to a $275 million reduction to the Internal Revenue Service annual appropriations as a win in their end-of-year negotiations on the omnibus spending package. Now, they could have stopped this with 40 Republicans would just say no, but they didn't. Republican leaders are highlighting the reduction in IRS funding at a time when conservatives are calling for fellow Republican lawmakers to punt major spending decisions into next year so the incoming GOP majority in the House can block funding to hire 87,000 new IRS agents. Yeah, you think that makes sense, right? You win the election, your side wins, and all you do is go with them and give them everything they want. Senator Shelby, the senior Republican on the Senate Appropriations Committee, pointed out that the $12.32 billion provided by the IRS in the omnibus is $275 million less than what IRS enacted for fiscal 2022. But again, this doesn't include the $80 billion that's been added with the Inflation Reduction Act. IRS funding falls into four categories: taxpayer services, operations support, enforcement, and business systems modernization. Overall, the omnibus makes a 2% cut to the IRS's appropriation, reducing it from $12.6 billion to $12.3 billion. And actually, there's more than that because that's the baseline. They got extra money for many other things last year. The 10,000 new employees, they got extra money for that. So actually, their budget last year was $14 billion, and it's much more than that now. It's going to be closer to $20 billion with the included money, the $80 billion. By zeroing out the business systems modernization account, according to the Senate GOP aide, funding for the rest of the agency's accounts was kept flat. Senate Republican Whip John Thune on Tuesday called the funding reduction a selling point with Republicans who are on the fence about voting for the bill. But GOP sources acknowledge that the funding cut is relatively insignificant. Relatively insignificant? No, it's wholly insignificant compared to the $80 billion the IRS received from the Inflation Reduction Act, which passed Congress this summer under the budget reconciliation process without a single Republican vote. Senator Cornyn, a member of the Finance Panel's Taxation and IRS Oversight Subcommittee, said he's not optimistic about clawing the $80 billion back from the IRS, despite calls from conservative colleagues to do so. The IRS, get this. The IRS is a big, complex organization, and it's not been a model of efficiency and innovation. You really think that's true? And I worry about dumping a whole bunch of money on it and saying figuring it out rather than coming up with a plan we can actually then fund and we can monitor. We can hold it accountable, he said. I think the IRS is going to continue to have plenty of money to do its job. You think? $14 billion a year? That's not enough. We got to almost double it. Give him double the number of people. So here's a story I wanted to touch on since I have a couple of minutes here. Haggerty Mansion proposed $10,000 threshold for the for the Venmo PayPal tax reporting change, up from $600. Remember that I reported this last week that there was another senator, actually it was a congressman who had proposed, and it was a Democrat from Illinois, actually, who wanted to raise it. But I think his threshold was $5,000. $10,000 makes better sense, but I think the old level at $20,000 and 200 transactions made more sense. Americans have been bracing for a new reporting change for the third-party networks like Venmo or PayPal. The senators will propose to raise the tax reporting threshold to $10,000 from $600 for 2022. Now the next story, if I get a couple of minutes, I'm gonna talk about Rand Paul, and he's got this. You got to see the picture of the bill because he brought it in on a cart yesterday. The senator will file an amendment to the $1.7 trillion spending package. It's not on there already. Everything else is in there. Why isn't it in there already? To increase the threshold for Form 1099-K, according to Manchin, the proposal's lead co-sponsor. The tax reporting threshold applies to transfers using third-party payment networks, including Venmo and PayPal. In an exclusive interview with CNBC, Manchin said that the amendment would increase the payment threshold to $10,000 from $600 for the 2022 tax season. I told you they're probably going to change it before the end of the year. Before 2022, taxpayers received 1099-Ks with more than 200 transactions worth an aggregate above $20,000. But the American Rescue Plan of 2021 dropped the threshold to just $600. Currently, even a single transaction of more than $600 may trigger the form. This is the best relief we can get for people, said Manchin, referencing the $10,000 threshold as the best way to approach it. No, it isn't. The best way to approach it is leave it alone. Leave it at the $20,000. He believes that raising the threshold to $10,000 has broader support than delaying implementation of the new rule. Let's delay implementation. Tax professionals have flagged the lower tax. I'm a tax professional. I flagged it. The lower tax reporting threshold as a possible pain point for filers, with the risk of receiving 1099-Ks for personal transfers, such as gifts or reimbursements. As tax preparers, we are more or less expecting the worst, a certified public accountant recently told CNBC. We're expecting more of our clients to get these things. Of course they are. What do you mean expecting it? It's not an expectation, it's a certainty. He said, so we're trying to be proactive in addressing it. How can you, proactive in addressing it? Why? By having it, I mean, it would help to go to 10,000, don't get me wrong. And it beats a sharp stick in the eye, but not by much. The American Institute for CPAs on Friday shared deep concerns about the $600 tax reporting threshold in a letter to the Senate Finance Committee and the House Ways and Means Committee. The professional group said it supported a National Taxpayers Union Foundation recommendations to raise the threshold to a level sufficient to exempt casual or low-level online activity. That group said even a 5,000 threshold would be significant progress. Well, yeah, when you're at 600 and you go to 5,000, it'd be better, but it's not. That's not good enough, in my opinion. So here, I just wanted to get this fast. Senator Rand Paul mocks massive $1.7 trillion bill. Hazardous debt, he called it. And it is hazardous debt. I don't know if you saw this, but they were, before the election, they were touting that this last quarter had added 1 million new workers. But that was revised to 10,000. 10,000, not a million. And that's what they based, they used that because to raise interest rates, right? The jobs are going to gangbusters. So we got to slow that down by raising the rate. Well, they're not going gangbusters. And if you raise the rate, that's going to make it go worse, not better. Anyway, Senator Rand Paul took to Twitter on Tuesday to mock the 4,155-page, $1.7 trillion bill that was made public earlier. Standing behind a cart holding all 4,155 pages of the bill, Paul tweeted, "I wonder how long it would take the clerk to read this." Because they'll waive that. Oh, let's waive that. We won't read that. Could take us into next year. And maybe more. So there's the copy of it. There's the picture of Rand Paul with 4,000 pages. Unbelievable. The cart Paul was standing behind contained posters reading $1.7 trillion of hazardous debt. Beware debt hazard of $1.7 trillion added to the national debt. Greatest threat to our national security, $1.7 trillion added to the debt. Lawmakers in the House and Senate have until the end of the week to pass legislation that would fund the government through September. It was due last September. So this is not, they had 9 months to get this in. And then the deadline was September 30th, and they had to kick it into now. Just doesn't make any sense. A deal is needed in order to avoid a government shutdown. Shut the government down. The bill includes funding that would go to Ukraine, as well as changes to the proponents say are intended to prevent another attack on the Capitol, like the one proponents say. Unbelievable. Finalizing the bill is critical, absolutely critical, for supporting our friends in Ukraine. So let's give them another $54 billion. Unbelievable. Anyway, that's what's going on. I always think it's kind of hilarious when we watch the Republicans pretend. Excuse me. We watch the Republicans pretend that they're going to cut something and then make a meager 2% to the IRS budget. Unbelievable. So thanks so much for joining us. Remember to like and share. Like and share. We need your help. I don't know what's going on. We need your help. Like and share. We need to get this information out. And remember, if you're facing IRS problems, if you owe the IRS money, if you have unfiled tax returns, and you don't know what to do, first thing you should do is get a copy of my book, Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. Go to freeirsbook.com. That's freeirsbook.com. Get your free copy. I will pay for the publishing if you pay for the shipping and handling. So go to freeirsbook.com. Get your free copy. So thanks so much for joining us here today. The GOP is pathetic. Pathetic. That's why everybody believes there's a uniparty. And they're all in this together, aren't they? No matter who we seem to vote for as Republicans, they all turn on us and they vote with the Democrats and do exactly what the Democrats want. It's a sad state of it, but that's where we are. So